Beggar's son speaks Japanese to businessman. The next day he goes after the boy. Richard Thomas Johnson felt sweat dripping down his forehead as he desperately tried to call Tokyo. His biggest deal in the last 10 years was about to fall apart because his interpreter had cancelled at the last minute, citing family issues. That's when he heard a child's voice beside him, speaking perfect Japanese. He turned in disbelief and saw a boy no older than 8, wearing a faded t-shirt and worn-out jeans, casually talking to someone on the other end of the line, a phone that had fallen to the ground when he tripped. "Sorry, sir," the boy said, handing back the phone. "I explained to the Japanese man that the call dropped by accident." Richard froze. How did this child know Japanese? And more importantly, how had he communicated so fluently with Mr. Nakamura? You speak Japanese?" Richard asked, still processing what had happened. "Yes, sir, my dad taught me," the boy replied, pointing to a man sitting on the sidewalk a few feet away, his head bowed and clothes even more ragged than the boy's. Richard looked around and realized he was in the heart of New York City, near Grand Central Station. The man on the sidewalk had a blanket spread out in front of him with a few scattered coins. He was a beggar. "What's your name?" Richard asked, still trying to make sense of the situation. "Tyler, sir, Tyler Williams, and that's my dad, Michael Williams." Richard's mind raced. Mr. Nakamura had been waiting for his call for over an hour. The contract for importing tech equipment was worth more than $1 million for his company. Without a competent interpreter, he'd lose everything. "Tyler, could you help me with a very important translation?" Richard asked, crouching to meet the boy's eye level. "Depends, sir. My dad always told me to only help polite people," Tyler replied, looking firmly into the businessman's eyes. Richard got the message. He stood up, walked over to Michael Williams, and, to the man's surprise, extended his hand. "Good afternoon, Mr. Michael. My name is Richard Thomas Johnson. I'd really appreciate your son's help with an urgent situation." Michael slowly raised his eyes. They were tired but sharp. There was something in that gaze that didn't match his beggar's appearance. "My son is just a child, sir," Michael said quietly but firmly. "I don't want him involved in grown-up problems." "Dad, he needs to talk to someone in Japan. I can help," Tyler interjected, gently touching his father's arm. Michael hesitated. Richard could see a silent conversation happening between father and son through their eyes. "Please, Mr. Michael, it's just a phone translation. I'll pay well for the service," Richard insisted. "We don't want your money," Michael said, standing up with difficulty. "If my son wants to help, he'll help. But not for money." Tyler smiled and motioned for Richard to call again. The businessman dialed Mr. Nakamura's number with trembling hands. "Moshi Moshi, Mr. Nakamura desu," came the voice on the other end. Tyler took the phone effortlessly and began speaking fluent Japanese. Richard didn't understand a word, but from the boy's tone and gestures it seemed he was explaining the situation. "He wants to know why you took so long to call back," Tyler translated, covering the phone's microphone. "Tell him there was a technical issue, but everything's resolved now," Richard instructed. Tyler resumed speaking in Japanese. The conversation continued for a few minutes. The boy asked Richard technical questions and translated the answers with impressive precision. "Mr. Nakamura is asking about the specifications of the industrial refrigeration equipment," translated Tyler. "He wants to know if they can withstand temperatures of -40 degrees and what the warranty covers." Richard responded in detail, impressed by the boy's ability to understand and convey such complex technical terms. The negotiation was going even better than he'd hoped. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. During the call, which lasted nearly an hour, Tyler demonstrated not just fluency in the language, but also a deep understanding of Japanese cultural nuances. He guided Richard on when to be more formal, when to pause respectfully, and even about Japanese business etiquette. Mr. Nakamura was very impressed with the translator's manners and knowledge, Tyler said after hanging up. He agreed to all the terms and wants to sign the contract next week. Richard could hardly believe it. His company was saved. The most important deal of his career had been secured thanks to an 8-year-old boy, the son of a homeless man. Tyler, that was incredible. How did you learn Japanese so perfectly? My father taught me, sir. He knows many languages, Tyler replied, looking proudly at Michael, who remained silent, watching the people passing by on the street. And you, Mr. Williams, where did you learn Japanese? Richard asked, stepping closer to the man. Michael averted his gaze, clearly uncomfortable with the question. That doesn't matter, sir. What matters is that my son could help you, he answered, starting to fold the blanket on the ground. Dad, you don't have to be ashamed, Tyler said. Mr. Johnson seems like a good person. Tyler, let's go, it's getting late, Michael said, avoiding the subject. Richard sensed he had touched on something delicate. He took out his wallet and pulled out some bills, but Michael firmly waved his hand. I already told you we don't want money, sir. But I need to repay Tyler for his help somehow, Richard insisted. The only thing my son needs is a hot meal, Michael said, taking Tyler's hand. We've only had bread for the past 2 days. Richard felt a pang in his chest. He looked at Tyler, who, despite his obvious hunger, smiled as if nothing were wrong. Then let me invite you both to dinner. I know a Japanese restaurant nearby. Tyler can practice the language with the waiters. Tyler's eyes lit up with excitement, but he glanced at his father, waiting for permission. We don't want to impose, sir, Michael said. It's no trouble. It's the least I can do after the help you've given me. Michael hesitated for a long moment, visibly wrestling with himself. Tyler gently touched his hand. Dad, it's been so long since we've had something good to eat. Michael's resistance melted. He nodded, but Richard noticed tears forming in his eyes. At the restaurant, Tyler chatted animatedly with the Japanese waiters, who were amazed by his fluency. Michael ate in silence, but Richard observed that his table manners were refined, unusual for someone living on the streets. Mr. Williams, may I ask you a personal question? Richard ventured. You can ask, but I can't promise I'll answer, Michael said without looking up from his plate. Were you once a teacher? Michael stopped chewing. Tyler also fell quiet, sensing the tension. Why do you ask? Michael finally looked at Richard. The way Tyler speaks, your knowledge, your manners, it's uncommon. The past doesn't matter, Mr. Johnson. What matters is the present, Michael replied, returning to his meal. But Richard had struck a nerve. He saw in Michael a mystery that needed unraveling. There was something much deeper to this story. After dinner, Richard walked them to a nearby hostel, insisting on paying for a room for the night. Michael reluctantly agreed, but only for Tyler's sake. Mr. Johnson, Tyler called out before entering the hostel, thank you for being kind to my dad. Most people look right through us like we're invisible. Tyler, can I ask you something? How many languages do you know? Japanese, English, Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese, of course, Tyler answered casually, as if it were normal for an 8-year-old to speak 5 languages. Richard headed home, still processing the day's events. The next morning, he received an urgent call from Mr. Nakamura. His Japanese business partner was coming to the United States and wanted to meet the translator who had impressed him so much. The problem was, Richard had no idea where to find Tyler and Michael. He'd forgotten to get any contact information. Desperate, he went back to Grand Central Station, but they weren't there. He asked other homeless people, but no one knew them. An elderly man selling candy said he'd seen a father and son in the area a few times, but they never stayed in one place for long. They always leave early in the morning and only come back at night, the vendor said. The boy sometimes stops by to buy candy with the coins they collect. He's too polite to be living on the streets. Richard spent the whole day searching. He checked hostels, shelters, clinics, anywhere they might be. Nothing. On the second day, he widened his search. He went to the public library, thinking Tyler might be one of those kids who found refuge in books. Are you looking for Michael and Tyler? Asked the librarian, a woman in her 60s named Mrs. Wilson. You know them? Of course I do. Tyler comes here almost every day. He's an exceptional child, speaks several languages and reads books even college students can't understand. What about his father? Michael always waits outside. He never comes in, but he watches through the window, proud of his son. There's something about that man, I can't explain it. It's like he used to be someone important. Do you know where they are now? They didn't come today, but Tyler once told me they sleep in different places every night so they don't bother anyone. They're very discreet. Richard left his card with Mrs. Wilson and asked her to let him know if Tyler showed up. On the third day, he got the call he'd been waiting for. "Mr. Johnson, Tyler is here at the library. Would you like to speak to him?" Richard ran there faster than he'd ever run in his life. He found Tyler reading a book on Japanese history, completely absorbed. "Tyler, it's so good to see you." "Hi, Mr. Johnson. How did you know I was here?" "Mrs. Wilson helped me." "Tyler, I really need your help again. Mr. Nakamura is coming to the United States, and he wants to meet you." Tyler was silent for a moment. "My dad won't like this," he finally said. "Why not?" "He doesn't like drawing attention, says it's dangerous for us." "Dangerous how?" "I don't know. He never really explains." Mrs. Wilson stepped closer. "Tyler, where's your father today?" "He's in Central Park. Said he needed to think about some things." Richard thanked Mrs. Wilson and went with Tyler to the park. He found Michael sitting on a bench, watching other children play. "Mr. Williams, I need to talk to you." Michael let out a deep sigh when he saw Richard. "I knew you'd come back," he said, unsurprised. "Mr. Nakamura wants to meet Tyler in person. It's a unique opportunity." "Opportunity for what? To turn my son into a circus act?" "That's not it. Mr. Nakamura was impressed by his abilities. This could open doors." "Doors to where? We don't have papers, we don't have an address, we don't officially exist," Michael said, bitterness in his voice. Richard sat beside him on the bench. "Mr. Williams, I can help you with that. I have lawyers, contacts. We can resolve your situation." "And why would you do that?" "Because Tyler is special, and because I see that you are too." Michael looked at Tyler, who was playing nearby with some pigeons. "You don't understand, Richard. My life is more complicated than it seems." "Then explain it to me." Michael was silent for a long time. Finally, he began to speak. "I was a university professor. I taught East Asian languages at Columbia University for 15 years. Richard felt a shiver. His suspicions were correct. "What happened?" "My wife got sick. Cancer. I spent everything I had and much more trying to save her. I took on huge debts, sold everything, even my books and diplomas." Michael's voice trembled. When she passed, I was financially and emotionally ruined. Tyler was only 2 years old. I couldn't work, I couldn't focus, I couldn't even take care of myself properly." "And how did you end up on the streets?" "I lost the apartment, I lost my job, I lost everything. At first we stayed with relatives, but I was in a terrible state, deep depression. People pitied me, but they didn't know how to help." "How long ago was that?" 6 years. Tyler basically grew up on the streets, but I never stopped teaching him everything I knew. It was the only thing I could still do right." Richard was moved. The story was far more tragic than he had imagined. "Mr. Williams, it's never too late to start over. You don't understand. I've been out of the job market for so long with no updated documents, no references. Who would hire a 42-year-old homeless man?" "I would." Michael looked at Richard with disbelief. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious. My company works with import and export. I need someone with knowledge of East Asian languages. And Tyler has an extraordinary talent that needs to be nurtured. But I don't know if I can still work in an office. I've lost a lot of social skills. I'm afraid of failing again. We can start slow, remote work, translations, consulting, at your own pace." Tyler approached, sensing they were talking about him. "Dad, Mr. Johnson is offering us a chance. Why don't we try?" "Tyler, it's not that simple." "I know you're scared, Dad, but I also know you're tired of this life. I can see it in your eyes." The boy's maturity impressed Richard. Tyler had grown up too fast, forced to be strong for a father battling his own inner demons. "What if I can't handle it? What if I don't meet expectations?" Michael asked. "Then we'll try something else." "But at least we'll try," Richard said. Michael ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that betrayed his inner turmoil. "I need to think about this." "That's fine. But Mr. Nakamura arrives tomorrow. Could Tyler at least meet him?" Not as a job commitment, just as a courtesy. Tyler looked at his father with pleading eyes. Dad, I'd really like to meet him. Michael sighed heavily. All right. But just a meeting, no commitments. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The next day, Richard stopped by the shelter where Michael and Tyler had slept. He brought new clothes for both, a simple suit for Michael and dress clothes for Tyler. You didn't have to do this, Michael said, but Richard noticed he touched the fabric of the suit carefully, like someone who hadn't seen quality clothes in a long time. It's just for the meeting. Mr. Nakamura values presentation highly. At the hotel where Mr. Nakamura was staying, Tyler spoke Japanese with such naturalness that the Japanese businessman was clearly impressed. Michael remained silent most of the time, but Richard watched his reactions carefully to every word. Konoko wa sugoi desu, said Mr. Nakamura to Michael. This child is extraordinary. Michael responded in fluent Japanese, which even surprised Richard. The conversation between Michael and Mr. Nakamura flowed for several minutes, discussing cultural and linguistic nuances that clearly interested the Japanese businessman. Michael-san, you have a very deep knowledge of our culture, said Mr. Nakamura in English with a heavy accent. Where did you study? At Columbia University, Michael replied hesitantly. Ah, I know some professors there, Professor Watanabe, Professor Kobayashi. Do you know them? Michael turned pale. I knew them. A long time ago. Professor Watanabe always spoke of an exceptional American who taught there. What was his name? Michael Williams. You're Michael Williams. The silence that followed was thick with tension. Michael seemed to want to disappear. Professor Watanabe always said you were one of the greatest experts in Japanese culture he had met in the United States, Mr. Nakamura continued. What happened? Why did you stop teaching? Michael couldn't answer. Tyler noticed his father's discomfort and held his hand. My mum got sick, Tyler said, breaking the silence. Dad had to take care of her and me. Then she went to heaven, and we were lost for a while. The simplicity and honesty of Tyler's answer deeply moved Mr. Nakamura. Gomen nasai, he said to Michael. I'm so sorry for your loss. Michael finally looked at Mr. Nakamura. Thank you, he murmured. Michael-san, if I may ask, would you like to teach again? I don't know if I'm still capable. I have a proposal. My company is opening an office in the United States. We need someone to bridge the cultural gap between our Japanese employees and the Americans. Would you be interested? Richard saw Michael torn between hope and fear. I would need time to catch up, study the changes of recent years. Of course, we can start with occasional consultations. And Tyler could participate in a cultural exchange program we developed. Learn more about our country. Tyler's eyes lit up. Dad, it would be amazing. But Michael still hesitated. I don't know if I'm ready for this. Michael-san, Mr. Nakamura said seriously, Professor Watanabe told me you always said that a child's education is the greatest investment a society can make. Tyler needs this opportunity. The words hit Michael like a punch. He remembered saying those exact words many times in his lectures. You don't understand, Michael said, his voice choked. I spent 6 years on the streets. I no longer have valid documents, references, nothing. I'm officially nobody. That can be fixed, Richard said. I have lawyers who specialize in this. What if I fail again? What if I disappoint you? What if I can't give Tyler the life he deserves? Dad, Tyler said, looking straight into his father's eyes, you've never disappointed me. Even on the streets, you always took care of me, always taught me, always protected me. You're the best dad in the world. Michael couldn't hold back his tears. For the first time in years, he cried in front of others. Tyler, I'm so afraid of failing again. Then fail with me by your side, Dad. But at least let's try. Mr. Nakamura was clearly moved. Richard also felt a lump in his throat. Michael-san, Mr. Nakamura said. In Japan, we have a saying, Nana Korobi ya Oki. Fall 7 times, rise 8. You've already fallen. Now it's time to rise. Michael looked at Tyler, then at Richard, then at Mr. Nakamura. Slowly, he nodded. Let's try, he said, his voice shaky but firm. Tyler shouted with joy and hugged his father tightly. Richard felt he had witnessed something very special, but the problems were just beginning. 3 days later, Richard received a desperate call from Michael. Richard, you need to help me. A social worker showed up at the shelter. Someone reported that Tyler isn't in school. They want to take my son. Richard rushed to the shelter and found a stern woman speaking with Michael, who was visibly distraught. Ma'am, I'm Richard Thomas Johnson, a businessman. I'm helping Michael and Tyler with a new job opportunity. Mr. Johnson, I understand your good intentions, but the situation is serious. Tyler Williams doesn't officially exist. He has no birth certificate, no documents, and has never been enrolled in school. Technically, this child doesn't exist in the eyes of the state. How is that possible? Tyler was born at home during a time when his father was facing extreme financial hardship. He was never registered. For the past 6 years, he's been living on the streets. Michael was panicked. I've always taken good care of him. I've taught him everything I know. He's not neglected. Mr. Williams, I don't doubt your love for your son, but by law, Tyler must be in school and have proper documentation. Additionally, I need to assess his living conditions. What if he's enrolled in school and we sort out the paperwork? Richard asked. That would be a good start. But until then, Tyler needs to stay in a temporary shelter. No, Tyler shouted. I won't leave my dad. The scene was heartbreaking. Tyler clung to Michael, who was also crying. Please, Michael begged, give me a chance. 1 week to fix everything. The social worker, Ms. Jenkins, hesitated. Mr. Williams, can you secure proper housing, school enrollment, and documentation in a week? I can, Richard said. I personally guarantee everything will be resolved in a week. And who are you to make that guarantee? Richard handed her his business card and company documents. I'm hiring Michael as a consultant in Eastern languages, and Tyler will participate in a special educational program. Ms. Jenkins examined the papers. 1 week, she finally said. If Tyler isn't enrolled in school with proper documentation in a week, I'll have to take further action. After she left, Michael broke down. Richard, I can't lose my son. He's all I have left. You won't lose him. We'll fix this. Richard immediately mobilized his lawyers. The process of legalizing Tyler's status would be complicated, involving a delayed birth certificate, paternity issues, and a history of homelessness. Dr. Roberts, Richard's lawyer, explained the situation. It's a delicate case. Tyler will need a delayed birth certificate which requires witnesses and identity verification. Michael will need to prove paternity, possibly through DNA testing, and both will need a permanent address and proof of income. How long does this usually take? Months, but with the right pressure and some judicial connections, we might speed it up. Richard arranged a small apartment for Michael and Tyler, advanced Michael's first paycheck as a consultant, and called in every favor he had. Meanwhile, Tyler was introduced to the private school where he'd be enrolled. The principal, Principal Thompson, was impressed by the boy's knowledge. His academic level is far beyond his age, she told Richard, especially in languages. I've never seen an 8-year-old with such fluency. His father is exceptional. He taught him everything he knows. I'll place him in a special class with activities tailored to his level, but he'll need to adjust to a formal school environment. Tyler was nervous on his first day of school. He had never interacted with other children his age in a structured environment. Dad, what if the other kids don't like me? Tyler asked on the morning of his first day. Tyler, you're special. Just be yourself, and everything will be fine. But it wasn't that simple. Tyler stood out too much. He knew answers even older kids didn't, spoke languages his teachers couldn't, and had a maturity that impressed and sometimes intimidated his classmates. He's weird, some children whispered. He talks differently, knows too much. Tyler came home sad. Dad, I don't fit in there. The kids think I'm different. Michael felt guilty. He had raised Tyler so intensely that the boy struggled to connect with normal kids. "Tyler, maybe you need to learn how to be a child too, not just a scholar." "But I like studying. I like learning languages. That's what makes me happy." Principal Thompson called Michael for a meeting. "Tyler is an exceptional child, but he needs psychological support. He struggles to play, to relax and interact. It's like he's an adult in a child's body." Michael grew worried. He had focused so much on Tyler's intellectual growth that he might have neglected his emotional and social development. The school psychologist, Dr. Taylor, evaluated Tyler. He has high abilities, what's commonly called giftedness, but he also shows signs of a child forced to mature too soon due to life circumstances. Is that bad? It's neither bad nor good. It's his reality. We need to help him develop age-appropriate social skills without losing his special abilities. Meanwhile, the documentation process moved slowly. Dr. Roberts managed to speed up some steps, but ran into complex bureaucracy. The biggest issue is that Michael lost his own documents years ago. We need to rebuild his identity too. Richard was spending a fortune on lawyers, psychologists, private school, and housing for Michael and Tyler. His wife, Karen, began questioning him. "Richard, how long will you keep supporting this family? They're not our responsibility." "Karen, Tyler saved my company, and Michael is an exceptional man who was going through hard times. But you've helped enough. They need to stand on their own. They're not ready yet." The truth was, Richard had grown genuinely fond of Michael and Tyler. He saw in Michael the father he had lost too soon, and in Tyler the son he never had. Things got more complicated when Ms. Jenkins returned for the second evaluation. "Tyler is in school, which is good, but the documents still aren't resolved, and I have concerning reports about his behavior at school." "What kind of reports?" "Social struggles, resistance to play, behavior too mature for his age. This could indicate trauma or improper development." Michael was devastated. "I ruined my son trying to save him. Mr. Williams, it's not about blame. It's about adjusting the approach. Tyler needs specialized support." Ms. Jenkins gave them 2 more weeks but insisted Tyler start therapy immediately. During the sessions, Dr. Taylor uncovered complex layers in Tyler's psychology. He feels responsible for his father's well-being. He takes on a protector role that shouldn't be his. That explains the early maturity. Is that why he struggles to play? Exactly. In his mind, playing is a waste of time when he could be helping his dad or studying for a better future. The psychologist recommended family therapy for Michael and Tyler. Michael needs to learn how to be a father again, not just a teacher, and Tyler needs to learn how to be a child. The sessions were painful for both of them. Michael realized how he had projected his own frustrations and fears onto Tyler. "I was so afraid he'd go without that I ended up putting too much pressure on him," Michael confessed in one session. "Tyler, how do you feel about this?" asked Dr. Taylor. "I just want my dad to be happy. If studying hard makes him proud of me, then I'll study. But what makes you happy?" Tyler thought for a long time. "I like teaching other kids. When I explained origami in the park, I felt good." Dr. Taylor had an idea. What if Tyler could teach Japanese to other kids at school? It would be a way to use his talents socially. The suggestion worked. Tyler started giving basic Japanese lessons to interested classmates. It gave him a way to connect with other kids using his special skills. Gradually, Tyler began making friends. Kids who admired his knowledge but also taught him how to play soccer, hide and seek, and other age-appropriate activities. Michael was changing too. His work as a consultant for Richard's company restored his self-esteem. Mr. Nakamura was so impressed with his consulting that he offered a broader contract. "Michael-san, we'd like you to coordinate the entire cultural exchange program between the United States and Japan for our company." It was an incredible opportunity, but Michael still had doubts. "I accept, but I need time to fully update myself. 6 years on the streets left me behind in many areas. There's no rush, we want quality, not speed." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. 2 months after the first meeting, Tyler's documents were finally ready. He now officially existed, with a social security number, birth certificate, and was properly enrolled in school. Ms. Jenkins conducted the final evaluation. The transformation is remarkable. Tyler is more balanced, making friends, maintaining excellent academic performance, while also participating in recreational activities. And Michael? Michael is rebuilding himself admirably. He has work, proper housing, is attending therapy, and taking on his fatherly role in a more balanced way. So can I close the case? Yes, but we'll keep quarterly check-ins for another year, just to ensure everything stays on track. Michael cried when he heard the news. So did Tyler, but they were tears of relief and gratitude. Dad, we did it, Tyler said, hugging Michael. We did, son. We finally did it. Richard organized a small party to celebrate. He invited Mr. Nakamura, Principal Thompson, Dr. Taylor, and Mrs. Wilson from the public library. During the party, Mr. Nakamura made an announcement. Tyler-kun, our company would like to sponsor your education. We want you to have the best schooling possible, including the chance to study in Japan when you're older. Tyler looked at his father, who nodded proudly. Thank you, Mr. Nakamura. But I also want to study here in the United States. I want to help other kids like me. How so? I want to teach, show other street kids that they can learn, dream, and have a better future. Everyone was moved by Tyler's maturity and generosity. Then we'll do both, said Mr. Nakamura. You'll study here and in Japan, and we'll create an educational program for children in vulnerable situations. Mrs. Wilson approached Tyler. You know, Tyler, I always knew you were special, but now I see you have something even rarer than intelligence, a kind heart. 6 months later, Tyler was at the top of his class, had a solid group of friends, and had begun teaching Japanese to underprivileged children in a social project created by Richard's company. Michael had completely transformed. He lost the sad and resigned look in his eyes, gained a little weight, cut his hair, and started wearing the prescription glasses he had lost years earlier. He was coordinating 3 different projects for Mr. Nakamura's company and had become a reference in cultural relations between the United States and Japan. Michael, how do you feel now? Richard asked during one of their regular meetings. Like I've come back to life, Richard. For years I just survived, now I'm living again. And Tyler? Tyler is being both a child and an adult in just the right way. He's still brilliant, still loves studying, but he also plays soccer, has fun, and argues with his friends over cartoons. It's perfect. Are you still afraid of failing? I am, but I've learned that the fear of failure can't stop me from trying. Tyler taught me that. A year after their first meeting, Tyler was invited to participate in a national competition for young talents. He would compete in the multilingualism and intercultural communication category. Dad, do you think I should participate? Tyler, do you want to? I do, but not to win. I want to show that kids like me can achieve anything if they have support and education. Then you've already won, son. At the competition, Tyler not only demonstrated his fluency in 5 languages, but also shared his story. He spoke about life on the streets, about the father who never gave up on educating him, and about the people who believed in them when no one else did. I'm not special because I speak multiple languages, Tyler told the audience. I'm special because I had a father who loved me enough to teach me that education is the one thing no one can take away from us. The audience rose in applause. Tyler won first place, but more importantly, he inspired hundreds of people in the crowd. After the awards ceremony, an elderly woman approached Michael. Sir, I coordinate a non-formal education program. I'd like to invite you to give talks about alternative teaching methodologies. Michael looked at her in surprise. Ma'am, I no longer have formal academic credentials. Sir, you have the best credential possible, results. Tyler is living proof that your methods work. Dad, will you do it? Tyler asked. It'd be great for you to teach again. Michael thought for a moment. The idea of teaching again, which once terrified him, now filled him with excitement. I accept, he said, but on one condition. Tyler can join me in the talks. He has a lot to teach too. 2 years after their first meeting on the street, Michael and Tyler had become a well-known duo in the educational field. Michael gave talks on alternative teaching methods, and Tyler demonstrated the practical results. They also founded a non-formal school for street children, sponsored by Mr. Nakamura's company and supported by Richard. "Our goal isn't to get kids off the streets overnight," Michael explained in an interview. "It's to show that even on the streets it's possible to learn, to dream, to have hope." Tyler, now 10 years old, had become a young ambassador for inclusive education. "A lot of people think street kids are just victims," he said in one of his talks, "but we can also be examples. We can show that circumstances don't determine destiny." Richard remained a constant presence in their lives. Tyler called him Uncle Richard, and Michael considered him a younger brother. "Richard, you saved our family," Michael said at a celebratory dinner. "Actually, you saved mine," Richard replied. "Tyler saved my company that first day. But you too saved my soul. You taught me the true value of things." Karen, Richard's wife, who had initially resisted her husband's involvement with Michael and Tyler, had become one of their biggest supporters. "I admit I thought it was too much at first," she confessed, "but now I see you brought something special into our lives. Tyler is like the son we never had." Mr. Nakamura had also become like a grandfather to Tyler. Whenever he came to the United States, he brought books and educational materials from Japan. "Tyler-kun, when you turn 15, would you like to study for a year in Japan?" he asked during one of his visits. "I'd love to, Uncle Nakamura, but only if my dad can come too." Of course, Michael-san can give lectures at Japanese universities about American education. The relationship between Michael and Tyler had also evolved. Michael had learned to be a father beyond just a teacher, and Tyler had learned to be a child beyond just a student. "Dad, can I ask you something?" Tyler said one afternoon while they were in Central Park. "Of course, son." "Do you regret those hard years you spent on the streets?" Michael thought carefully before answering. "Tyler, those were the toughest years of my life. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, but it was also when I learned the most important lessons." "What lessons?" "I learned that the love between a father and son is stronger than any hardship. I learned that dignity has nothing to do with money or social status, and I learned that we should never give up on teaching and learning." "I learned something too, Dad." "What?" "I learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about who chooses to stand by you when things are hard." Michael hugged Tyler, moved. "Where did you learn to be so wise?" "From the best teacher in the world," Tyler replied, "my dad." 3 years after their first meeting, Tyler was accepted into a special international educational exchange program. He would spend 6 months studying in different countries, improving his language and cultural knowledge. "Dad, are you sure you don't mind me traveling?" "Tyler, the hardest thing a father can do is let his child fly, but it's also the most important. I'll miss you." "Me too, but I'll be proud every day knowing you're chasing your dreams. When I come back, I want us to work on a special project together." "What project?" "I want to create a mobile school, one that goes to the street children instead of waiting for them to come to school." Michael smiled. Tyler never ceased to amaze him with his generosity and vision. "It'll be an honor to work with you on that, son." On the day of Tyler's departure, many people came to say goodbye at the airport. Richard and Karen, Mr. Nakamura, Principal Thompson, Dr. Taylor, Mrs. Wilson, and even Ms. Jenkins. "Tyler," Ms. Jenkins said, "when I first met you, I was worried about your development. Today I see you're one of the most well-balanced children I've ever known. Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. You helped me understand that being different isn't a problem, it's an opportunity." "Michael," she said, turning to his father, "you're proof that it's never too late to start over. Congratulations." "Thank you. Thank you for believing we deserved a chance." Tyler hugged everyone present, but the longest embrace was for his father. "Dad, thank you for never giving up on me. Thank you for teaching me that knowledge is power, but love is strength. Tyler, you're my greatest pride, not for what you know, but for who you are. I love you, Dad. I love you too, son, more than anything in this life." Tyler boarded the plane carrying a backpack full of books and a heart full of dreams. Michael stood at the airport window until the plane disappeared on the horizon. Richard approached him. "Michael, how do you feel?" "I'm scared. I already miss him, but I know I made the right choice. Tyler needs to fly." "And you?" What are you going to do while he's away? I'll prepare the mobile school. When he returns, I want our project to be ready to start. Can I help? Of course. After all, we're family. 6 months later, Tyler came back transformed. He had grown both physically and intellectually. He now spoke 7 languages and had an impressive global perspective for a 12-year-old. "Dad!" he shouted when he saw Michael at the airport. Their embrace moved everyone present. Father and son had survived the separation and were now even closer. "How was it, son?" "Amazing, Dad. I learned so much and I have an idea for our mobile school." "Tell me." "I want it to be international. I want to teach languages to street children, but I also want them to share their cultures with kids from other countries through video calls." Michael was stunned by Tyler's expansive vision. "That's a brilliant idea, son." "And Dad, in every country I visited, I told our story. So many people want to support our project." "Really?" "Really. The mobile school could become a worldwide movement." A year later, the School Without Walls project, created by Michael and Tyler, was operating in 5 US cities and had partnerships with organizations in 10 countries. Tyler, now a teenager, coordinated the international side, while Michael handled the teaching methodology. "Dad, sometimes I wonder what our lives would have been like if we hadn't met Mr. Johnson that day." "I think about that too, Tyler. But you know what I realize?" "What?" "That one way or another we would have found our path, because we had something even the streets couldn't take from us." "What?" "Faith in each other. And faith in education. Dad, can I tell you a secret?" "Of course. Sometimes I pretend I'm a normal kid who grew up in a normal family, in a normal house. But I always come back to our real story." "Why?" "Because our story, as hard as it was, is special. It's ours. And it taught me that what defines us isn't where we come from, it's where we're going." Michael looked at Tyler with endless pride. "Tyler, you've become a wise man." "I learned from the best," Tyler replied, smiling. 5 years after their first meeting, Tyler was accepted into one of the country's top universities on a full scholarship. He would study international relations and linguistics. "Dad, I'm sure about my career choice." "What is it?" "I want to be like you, a teacher. But I want to teach at universities, train other teachers, and expand our method worldwide." "What about the mobile school?" "It'll continue, but now with a solid theoretical foundation. I want to get my master's and PhD in non-formal education for vulnerable populations." Michael couldn't hide his emotion. "Tyler, you're going so much further than I ever could." "Dad, I'm moving forward because you carried me on your shoulders. Everything I achieve is because of you." "No, son. It's because of you. I just planted the seeds. You made them grow." At his high school graduation, Tyler was invited to be the class speaker. His speech was simple but powerful. "Classmates, teachers, family. 8 years ago, I was a child with no documents, no home, no apparent future. Today, I stand here, about to enter college, with projects around the world." The audience was completely silent. What changed? One person believed in me. My dad never gave up. And others joined him. Mr. Johnson, who gave us a chance. Mr. Nakamura, who gave us a global vision. Principal Thompson, who gave us academic grounding. Dr. Taylor, who gave us emotional balance. But the lesson I want to leave isn't about luck or good people. It's about not giving up. It's about believing education can transform any life, no matter where it begins. My father taught me on the streets of New York City that knowledge is the only wealth no one can steal from us. Today, I want to make that lesson my life's mission. The audience rose in a standing ovation that lasted 5 minutes. Michael wept proudly in the front row, alongside Richard, Karen, Mr. Nakamura, and everyone who had been part of the journey. After the ceremony, a reporter asked for an interview with Tyler and Michael. "Tyler, do you have any advice for other children going through hard times?" "I do. Never accept that your circumstances define your future, and study. Read everything you can. Ask questions, be curious. Education is the only ladder that never breaks." "And you, Mr. Michael, any advice for struggling parents?" "Never stop teaching your children, no matter where you are. A father who educates is more powerful than poverty, stronger than hardship, and never ever lose hope. What's next for you both? Tyler looked at his father and smiled. We'll keep pursuing our mission, now with solid scientific backing. We want to prove that unconventional teaching methods can be as effective as traditional ones, sometimes even more. And personally? Personally, Michael said, we've already won. We have a family, a purpose, a future. The rest is a gift to the world. 6 months later, Tyler was in his first year of college, already involved in research on inclusive education. Michael had been invited to teach as a visiting professor at 3 universities. The mobile school had expanded to 15 cities, serving over 1,000 at-risk children. Dad, Tyler said during a call from college, I just got an offer. What offer? UNESCO wants our project to be a global case study. They want to implement our methods in countries across Africa and Asia. That's an incredible opportunity, Tyler. But it means we'd have to travel a lot, spend months away. And you want to accept? I do. But only if you're on board too. Tyler, why wouldn't I be? Because I know you like our routine here, our home, our local projects. Michael laughed. Tyler, did you forget something? What? Our home is wherever we are together. Our mission is to teach. It doesn't matter if it's here in New York City or in Africa, we go together. Are you sure? I am. After all, I still have so much to learn from my favorite teacher. Who? You, of course. 2 years later, Michael and Tyler were coordinating educational projects in 7 countries. Tyler had become the youngest person ever to receive a UNESCO award for educational innovation. Michael had earned a late doctorate in educational methods in socially vulnerable contexts and become a global authority on the subject. Dad, Tyler said one afternoon as they prepared a presentation in Geneva, sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we'd given up on that first hard day. Which first day? When you were born, when your mother left, when we ended up on the streets, when we met Richard? Any of them, any moment we could have quit. Tyler, want to know the truth? I thought about quitting many times, especially in those early years on the streets. What kept you going? You. Every time I saw you studying on the sidewalk with a piece of charcoal, writing on walls, asking questions about everything, I knew you deserved more. And that gave me strength. And I kept going because I saw you never stopped teaching me, even when we had nothing. That showed me there was always hope. You know what makes me proudest, Tyler? What? It's not your academic success, not the awards, not the global recognition. Then what is it? It's seeing that, despite all this success, you're still the same person. He still wants to help other children, remains humble, and keeps his kindness. Success hasn't changed his character. That's because you taught me that character isn't negotiable, that values have no price. And you taught me that a father's love can overcome any obstacle. Tyler hugged Michael. Dad, I love you. I love you too, son. More than yesterday, less than tomorrow. At the presentation in Geneva, Tyler spoke to delegates from 50 countries about their experience. Ladies and gentlemen, education is not a privilege, it's a right. And this right doesn't depend on beautiful buildings, expensive equipment, or teachers with many degrees. It depends on love, on persistence, on believing that every child has infinite potential, no matter where they come from. My father proved that to me. He educated me on a sidewalk as if it were the best university in the world, and maybe it really was. Today, our project serves children in 15 countries. We partner with 20 universities. We've trained over 100 social educators. But our greatest pride isn't the numbers. It's knowing that every child we've helped has discovered they have worth, potential, and a future. Because that's what my father taught me on that sidewalk in New York City. A child's future isn't determined by where they're born, but by who believes in them. The audience rose in a standing ovation that lasted 10 minutes. Michael sat in the front row crying with pride. After the presentation, the UNESCO Director General approached. Mr. Tyler, Mr. Michael, you've changed how the world sees non-formal education. We'd like to propose something special. What would that be? Michael asked. We want to create a UNESCO chair in your names, the Tyler and Michael Williams Chair for Inclusive Education and Social Innovation. Tyler looked at his father, both moved. "It would be an honor," Tyler said, "but with one condition." "What?" "That the chair isn't just dedicated to us, but to all the children on the streets today, waiting for someone to believe in them. And to all the parents who, even in the worst circumstances, never give up on educating their children," Michael added. "Perfect," the director said. "It will be exactly like that." 5 years after the chair's creation, Tyler had earned his doctorate in education at 22 and was coordinating educational programs in 30 countries. Michael, at 52, was recognized as one of the world's leading experts in education for vulnerable populations. "Dad," Tyler said one afternoon as they visited the school where it all began, "remember when I was little and asked if we'd ever be happy?" "I do. And I always answered that we were happy. We just didn't know it yet. You were right, we were happy because we had each other. Everything else was a consequence." "Tyler, can I ask you something I've always wanted to ask?" "Of course." "Do you regret having such a different childhood? Do you wish you'd been a normal kid?" Tyler thought for a long moment. "Dad, if I'd been a normal kid, I'd probably be a normal adult. I'd have a good but ordinary life." "And would that be bad?" "It wouldn't be bad. But our life has something money can't buy: purpose, meaning, the certainty that we're making a difference." "Anything else?" "Yes. If I'd had a normal childhood, I wouldn't have learned that true love never gives up. I wouldn't have seen a father sacrifice everything to educate his son. I wouldn't have discovered that strength comes from love, not money." "Tyler." "Let me finish, Dad. If I'd been a normal kid, I wouldn't have met Richard, Mr. Nakamura, Principal Thompson, all the people who helped us. I wouldn't have learned that kindness exists in the world. And most of all, I wouldn't be certain that I have the best father in the world. A father who taught me on the streets that knowledge is freedom, that dignity comes from within, that love conquers all." Michael couldn't speak, overcome with emotion. "That's why I wouldn't change a thing, Dad. Not a thing. Our story is perfect just the way it is." "Tyler, you are the greatest gift life ever gave me. And you're my hero, Dad. Yesterday, today, and always." At that moment, sitting on the bench at the school where Tyler had graduated, father and son realized they had achieved far more than they ever dreamed on that sidewalk years ago. They hadn't just survived. They hadn't just thrived. They had become proof that love, education, and perseverance can overcome any hardship. And most importantly, they had turned their pain into purpose, their struggle into a mission, their story into hope for thousands of other families around the world. "Dad," Tyler said, standing up from the bench, "ready for our next adventure?" "Ready," Michael replied, rising as well. "Where are we headed this time?" "Wherever education needs us, wherever there are children waiting for someone to believe in them. Like we've always done, like we always will, together." And so father and son walked side by side, no longer running from a difficult past, but racing toward a future full of possibilities, carrying with them the certainty that any child from anywhere can achieve any dream, as long as they have love, education, and someone who believes in them. The story that began on a sidewalk in New York City had become a worldwide mission. Tyler and Michael Williams proved that it doesn't matter where you start, only where you choose to go, and that the greatest diploma anyone can hold is the love of a family that never gives up. Years later, when people asked Tyler what his proudest achievement was, he always gave the same answer. "My greatest pride isn't earning my doctorate at 22. It isn't winning international awards. It isn't leading projects in 30 countries. My greatest pride is having a father who taught me that to educate is to love, that to love is to believe, and that to believe is to never give up." And when Michael was asked the same question, he would say, "My greatest pride is having a son who turned everything I taught him into something far greater than I ever imagined. Tyler took the seeds I planted and grew a forest. That's any educator's greatest reward, seeing their students surpass them. And so ended the story of the boy who spoke Japanese on the street and the father who never stopped teaching. A story that proved true education doesn't happen only in classrooms, but anywhere there is love, dedication, and the certainty that every child deserves a bright future. The end. Now tell me, what did you think of this inspiring story? Did Tyler and Michael show that love and education can overcome any obstacle? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming stories like this one. Thank you for joining us.